It's Nolan. Now, before we get started, make sure y'all hitting that like button. Make sure y'all sharing it on your respective platforms. Let somebody know what we're doing today. Now, let's get into the show.
I said I'm A-Town from a Lucha Libre.
What's going on, beautiful people? It's the kid J Nolan here. Welcome back to another episode of Inside the Industry, your number one source for music, entertainment, commentary, and breakdowns. Hope everybody's doing well out there this evening. In this video, we're going to be getting into Megan Thee Stallion and Milagro. Unfortunately, we do not have a verdict. It was supposed to be announced this afternoon, and unfortunately, they have postponed the verdict until after the holiday. So they will be going back to court on Monday morning to get the final decision from the jury. All right. So Megan Cuniff and everybody pretty much that has been reporting on this trial has said this thing drug out. It was very repetitive. Of course, there's a lot at stake here in terms of Megan's defamation claims, the spread of the deep fake video, the intentional infliction of emotional distress, and all of that type of stuff. Of course, there's the new law out in Florida that actually punishes people for sharing altered depictions of people in sexual situations, which of course Megan's legal team is trying to enforce. And of course, there's some people out there that feel like this verdict will have implications on online commentators, right? They feel like this could possibly drop a hammer on people who come on the internet, build followings in terms of media or in terms of, let's just say, commentary specifically, and how people will be able to conduct said commentary moving forward. I think for anybody that's actually running a responsible program and a responsible channel, I don't feel like I've got anything to worry about. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, people that are advocating for Milagro, they tend to try to throw that narrative out there like, this is going to change things for y'all, especially someone such as myself who has not been all that favorable of Milagro. They're going to be like, see, stuff like this go affect you too. You going to fuck around and get you a lawsuit too. Hey, don't speak that blasphemy over here. Okay? Speak that demon over yourself if you want to, but don't bring that shit over here. Okay? Because I don't create narratives about people. I only speak about what's going on. I'm not in a rush to try to disparage anybody's name purposely. If you embarrass yourself and I talk about it, that's one thing. I'm not here to deliberately make stories to embarrass people or find ways to create embarrassment for somebody. And I damn sure ain't trying to embarrass my family in the process of doing so. So please keep that shit elsewhere. And unfortunately, getting back to the trial and the jury in particular, it seems that they've been at least mildly confused throughout the duration of this entire trial, right? In the beginning, they were confused in terms of all of the different names that were being brought into the conversation. Again, it was kind of like they had to learn the inner workings of two trials all at once because they had to be briefed on the Tory Lanez versus State of California, his conviction for shooting Megan Thee Stallion, and all of the internet chatter that surrounded that, the harassment, the violations of violations of restraining order, him coming into developing this relationship with Milagro, his father coming to develop a relationship with Milagro, her covering the trial, being at the trial, purposely putting out misinformation, being somewhat regarded as media, but then somehow becoming aligned with his father to where she was sitting in the section with his family rather than where the rest of the reporters and people covering the trial were at. They had to get refreshed up on all of this different stuff. The ballistics, the shooting, they had to be refreshed on witness testimony, all of this type of stuff that none of them actually really signed up for when they accepted, the position as jury, but of course, whatever comes with the case is what comes with it. But again, they were confused by who's Kelsey, who's Chelsea, who's Tori, who's Daystar, who's Sunstar. So it was a lot for them to retain in a very short period of time. And as the trial continued to proceed, I think it only got even more confusing for them because it's like, who is this Milagro lady? You know, y'all are saying she's media, but then she's not. Or is she media or is she not? Which is still a very important question that they can't seem to easily answer. They're even stating that as of today, they were literally asking for direction from the judge on, y'all, hey, is she media? Is she not? Like, what the fuck is going on? So, what seemed like an easy slam dunk of a win for Megan Thee Stallion, it does seem like, at bare minimum, it has become a little bit more of a challenge, right? There's a lot of people out there that are pretty disappointed with her legal team. You know, she's represented by Quinn Emanuel and Urquhart, but Alex Spiro was not here. Alex Spiro is the main man over there, at least to my knowledge. He has worked closely with Megan throughout the past couple of years in other cases that she's had. But he wasn't the lead. He wasn't the guy on this one. John O'Sullivan was. And a lot of people are like, yo, what the fuck is up with O'Sullivan? You know, they feel like he's dropped the ball a bit. Now, to what extent did he drop it? I can't say. I wasn't there. And we'll have to find out on Monday. But of course, I will recap some of what has gone down in the last couple of days, what exactly the jury has to continue to deliver about, so much so that they couldn't come to a final answer today. They had a juror that needed to be out of the courtroom by 4 o'clock. Therefore, their solution was that they would end at 4. The judge presiding over the case had to be gone by 1:30. So they were going to have another judge come in. So very interesting stuff going on here. And again, what seemed like an easy slam dunk has turned into a contested shot, I gotta say. So I'm over here on Megan Cunniff's page, and these are the list of questions that the jury has been and will continue to be deliberating for the verdict of this trial. She says the jury is now deliberating in the federal trial over Megan Thee Stallion's defamation lawsuit against Milagro Gramz. The attorneys and judge were editing the verdict form when I left the courtroom to update you. Here's the draft. So remember, I showed y'all the list of questions in my pre-trial show before everything began. These questions have been slightly modified. Okay? So count 1, defamation per se. The question for the jury is, do you find by a preponderance of the evidence that Ms. Cooper defamed Ms. Pete by accusing Ms. Pete of perjury, a felony, by lying under oath in a criminal trial? Okay? Now, I think that should stand. Personally, that's just my opinion. I'm not saying that that will or that they will vote yes on that. But I think it should stand because Milagro for years had came out and said that Megan lied on the stand. Okay? Lied about being shot, lied about who did it, the whole nine. And in the last couple of days, Milagro has actually admitted that she now believes Megan Thee Stallion was indeed shot. So if you knew she was shot and said that she lied on the stand about being shot, I would say that you were accusing somebody of committing perjury. That's just how I see it. We'll see what the jury has to say about that. Now, question 2. Do you find by preponderance of the evidence that Ms. Cooper provides disinterested and neutral commentary rather than advocacy for a particular client or personal interest? All right. So here the jury will have to answer to whether or not they believe that Milagro is neutral Or is she advocating for a particular client, as in a Tory Lanez, or a personal interest? They'll have to vote yes or no. We'll see. Question 3. Do you find by a preponderance of the evidence that Ms. Cooper regularly disseminates news or information to the public rather than making isolated or one-time publications? All right. So here they have to decide whether they believe that she is disseminating news, or is she just someone running isolated online attacks? Now, I think question 3 is a little bit tricky, right? Because she has multiple shows. She's on YouTube. She's on Twitch. She's on Station Head. And although she regularly talks about Megan in particular, there is evidence that suggests that she talks about other subjects, right? So would that count as disseminating news? Or do those attacks, should those be isolated in their own space rather than lumped into this question? I'm not in a position to rephrase it, but I do find it to be an interesting question. And I think this one is going to be a little bit more complicated for a jury to answer in such a black or white way, which could cause some issues. Now, the next question here says the verdict form asked jurors to decide if Milagro qualifies as media under Florida state law. Let me see if I can enlarge this. Okay. Question 4. Do you find by a preponderance of the evidence that Ms. Cooper impartially disseminates information rather than acting primarily to promote their own business, products, or services? All right. Now, to my knowledge, I can't answer that for the jury, but to my knowledge, I don't know if she impartially disseminates information. I think all of her information is disseminated partially, with a spin on it. Impartially meaning you take no position and you just kind of put it out there. And at some point you may share your opinion, but the way she puts everything out is always slanted with a particular direction that she wants you to go in. It's all guided by her opinion, rather than acting primarily to promote their own business, products, or services. I think she's trying to promote herself. But we'll see how the jury perceives it. Do you find by a preponderance of the evidence that Ms. Cooper operates for the purpose of informing the public about matters of public concern through news reporting, analysis, or commentary? Again, based on the way it's written, I think that it's very possible the jury can vote yes on this, right? Because she does have a lot of shows that she talks about other things going on in the public, in entertainment, etc. So we'll have to see. Again, these questions have been revised from the ones that were originally brought to the table. Do you find by preponderance of the evidence that Ms. Cooper functions in a similar manner to traditional news media, such as newspapers, magazines, television, radio, or their online equivalents? I wouldn't compare her to traditional news. I think they had a whole, debate in the courtroom with Milagro about what she does. She identifies as new media, not traditional media, not legacy media. And they even challenged her on, well, if you're new media, then what are the rules that you need to adhere to in order to qualify, right? Because traditional media, you have to maintain journalistic integrity. You have to have certain responsibility. You have to take on a certain level of responsibility with what it is that you put out there. So if you're new media, then what are the rules and regulations that constitute new media versus legacy media, right? So if she wants to be separated as new media, then I don't think you could answer number 6 as yes. But again, that's just my opinion. Question 7. Considering your answers to questions 2 through 6 together, do you find by preponderance of the evidence that Ms. Cooper should be treated as a media defendant with associated privileges. All right. So that's the main thing here, is whether or not Milagro will be identified as a media defendant. And again, if she is identified as a media defendant, then that would significantly lower the impact that she is hit with in terms of defamation. I've seen some people say if she's treated as a media defendant, defamation could completely fall. So that would be interesting. Question 8. Do you find by a preponderance of the evidence that Ms. Cooper's defamatory statements caused Ms. Pete harm? I don't see how you can answer no to that question. That's just my opinion. This is somebody who has showed their grief, documented their grief, and has paid a hefty amount of money to try to overcome it. So, again, I am not part of the jury. We'll just have to see how they answer. As it pertains to count 2, promotion of an altered sexual depiction. Question 9. Do you find by preponderance of the evidence that Ms. Cooper willfully and maliciously promoted without Ms. Pete's consent a visual depiction of Ms. Pete that she knew or reasonably should have known was an altered sexual depiction? Yes or no? I don't see how the jury could possibly say no on that. It's proven that she did just that, willfully, and, she definitely willfully did it. Maliciously, I believe so, but will they is the question. Clearly, it was without consent, and it was a visual depiction of Miss Pete, although it was fake. Right? So, again, they showed plenty of evidence indicating that. We'll see how they answer. Count 3, question 10. Do you find by preponderance of the evidence that Ms. Cooper intentionally or recklessly engaged in extreme and outrageous conduct toward Ms. Pete? Again, I don't see how they could answer no, but I do not know how they are perceiving this. Question 11. Do you find by preponderance of the evidence that Ms. Pete suffered severe emotional distress as a result of Ms. Cooper's extreme and outrageous conduct? I would say yes, because clearly Ms. Cooper was the main person that was bothering her. What do we have here? Okay, so this is going to be the jury answering to the nature of damages. Question 12. Do you find by preponderance of the evidence that Ms. Pete should be awarded compensatory damages against Ms. Cooper? If yes, what is the amount that you think would be just? Question 12A. If your answer is yes, in what amount do you award for defamation per se? Question 12B. If your answer is yes to question 12, in what amount do you award for promotion of an altered sexual depiction? Question 12C. If your answer is yes to question 12, in what amount do you award for intentional infliction of emotional distress? Question 13. If you found that Ms. Pete is not entitled to compensatory damages, do you find by a preponderance of the evidence that Ms. Pete should be awarded nominal damages against Ms. Cooper? Yes or no? 14. Do you find by clear and convincing evidence that punitive damages are warranted against Ms. Cooper on Ms. Pete's defamation claim? If your answer is yes, in what amount? Question 15. Do you find by clear and convincing evidence that punitive damages are warranted against Ms. Cooper on Ms. Pete's intentional infliction of emotional distress claim? If yes, what amount? All right. So those are the questions that the jury will be reconvening on Monday morning to answer. Should have been done today, but unfortunately, it was not. In addition to having to answer to those questions, the jury also received instructions, which is the adverse inference, referring to Milagro deleting messages. All right, so this is instruction number 2, deletion of evidence. A party to a lawsuit, such as the defendant, has a legal duty to retain and preserve paper and electronic communications and other documents that concern the case. This includes, among other things, all electronically stored information in one's possession, custody, or control, such as emails, text messages, and other communications stored on applications of one's phone, computer, or in the cloud. The day before plaintiff filed this lawsuit, her attorneys formally notified defendant is Milagro, by the way, that plaintiff was going to file the case and that she had these retention and preservation duties. Despite this written notice and these underlying legal duties, defendant deleted thousands of text messages and removed the WhatsApp app from her phone that potentially contained messages and chats. In reaching your verdict, you should assume and infer that defendant intended to deprive plaintiff of the evidence in the deleted messages and chats, that at least some of the deleted messages related to the claims in this case and were about plaintiff, and that these deleted messages were unfavorable to defendant. So once again, this information has been presented to the jury, and they will have to treat this information and say, Milagro deleted these texts, these messages, these emails, these apps from her phone to hide information that would have been favorable to Megan. Okay? It is the judge's instruction that they take it that way, because she violated her responsibility when she deleted them. Okay? So that's another piece that's going to factor into the jury's decision. Megan Cuniff states further, the jury asked a few questions already. I haven't seen the exact questions, but I was in the courtroom when Judge Altanega addressed them just now. First asked to identify specific exhibits. Furthermore, she says second asked about the deepfake video statute in Florida, which Megan's lawyer told them in closing was a brand new law. I think the question was about where it applies, because Milagro's lawyer wanted to say it's specific to Florida, but Megan's lawyer said other states have similar laws. Judge would tell them to please rely on the instructions that I have given you. Jury also apparently asked where Megan was when she saw the video. She testified she was in the back of her tour bus, no state specified. Judge Altanega will tell jury, please rely on your memory of evidence. And then this is the update where no jury verdict was put forth today. And of course, they're going to go back Monday, right? So this has been interesting. Not only Megan Cuniff, also LaJanae, the docket diva, she's kind of reporting some of the same. And again, I like to report on different people's posts because I'm not there to say what's right, wrong, or how this is being received. Now let's get into the game within the game, all right? Because Milagro and her legal team these last couple of days have been filing motions to the judge to try and find ways to make Megan have to pay sanctions, okay? And also to try to dilute the impact of, these counts in her lawsuit. So here, Milagro filed a motion for directed verdict on plaintiff's claim for intentional infliction of emotional distress. All right. So she wanted to try to get this emotional distress piece taken out. So it says, pursuant to Rule 50 of the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, defendant Milagro Elizabeth Cooper respectfully moves for a directed verdict on plaintiff Megan Pete's claim for intentional infliction of emotional distress. Plaintiff has failed to establish the essential elements of this tort as a matter of law. No reasonable jury could find in her favor on this claim based on the evidence presented at trial. Introduction. Defendant Milagro Cooper is an independent broadcaster and online commentator who hosts a trademarked radio show, Mobs Radio, on the Station Head platform. You see how they tried to position this? They're calling her now an independent broadcaster and online commentator, and they want to show that she has a trademarked radio show, although her trademark, to my knowledge, is not even current. But that's to my knowledge, okay? Y'all can do the research on your own. And she's also no longer being paid by Station Head, because once the lawsuit came and the deepfake and everything, they stopped paying her, allegedly. As part of her daily programming, she discusses pop culture, legal controversies, and celebrity news. Her commentary often includes high-profile criminal trials, including the prosecution of Daystar Peterson, professionally known as Tory Lanez, in which plaintiff Megan Pete, professionally known as Megan Thee Stallion, was a key witness. Plaintiff's claim for intentional infliction of emotional distress is based entirely on defendant's public commentary and live stream discussions concerning the Tory Lanez trial and its aftermath. No, it's not solely based on that. And to even allege that it is crazy, because the intentional infliction is also hinging on your social media behavior. But anyway, plaintiff alleges that the defendant's statements broadcast through YouTube and other digital platforms caused her emotional harm, which even if it was just off of the commentary would be harmful enough. That's like saying, I won't put myself in a position, but that's like saying somebody who solely reports on YouTube just goes on a crazy campaign against somebody and say, well, you're solely basing this on my public commentary. Yeah, that's the commentary that you continue to put out is what was causing me the distress, nigga. What you talking about? Anyway, plaintiff has not alleged any personal contact, threats, or direct targeting beyond public speech about a newsworthy criminal proceeding. Legal standard. To prevail on a claim for IIED under Florida law, a plaintiff must prove 1. The defendant's conduct was intentional or reckless. 2. The conduct was outrageous, beyond all bounds of decency, and utterly intolerable in a civilized community. 3. The conduct caused emotional distress. And 4. The emotional distress was severe. Florida courts apply a high bar for IIED claims, requiring conduct that is so outrageous in character and so extreme in degree as to go beyond all possible bounds of decency. Mere insults, indignities, or annoyances, even if malicious, do not suffice. If you want to say even if malicious, there is a malicious intent question that the jury has to answer, but I'll digress. Violent, rude, abrasive, or even mean-spirited conduct is insufficient under Florida law, they allege. Florida and federal courts applying Florida law routinely reject IIED claims based on verbal insults, harsh criticism, or professional mistreatment. No extreme and outrageous conduct where an employee, blah, blah, blah. Anyway. Argument. The conduct alleged online commentary does not rise to the level of outrageousness required under Florida law. One basis for plaintiff's IIED claim is defendant's online commentary about plaintiff's public role in the trial of Daystar Peterson. Defendant's speech, however, pointed, critical, or unpopular, is speech on a matter of public concern and does not remotely approach the level of outrageousness Florida law requires. Commentary on public controversies is protected under the First Amendment. Much of the speech plaintiff alleges is commentary related to a high-profile criminal trial in which plaintiff testified. As such, it is protected speech. The First Amendment bars recovery for IIED based solely on offensive speech regarding public controversies or figures. Plaintiff is a Grammy-winning public figure who publicly testified in a nationally covered trial. Defendant's commentary regarding that trial and related matters is squarely within protected discourse, allowing recovery under these circumstances would chill public discussion on matters of significant societal interest. Promotion of an altered sexual depiction was not extreme and outrageous conduct to support an IIED claim. Wow. So here they say this federal rule 836.13 1F provides an avenue for plaintiffs to seek a remedy for any damages for promotion of an altered sexual depiction for purposes of IIED. The promotion of an altered sexual depiction is not extreme and outrageous, consistent with Florida case law. Here, the defendant was live broadcasting on a radio station when an audience member provided her with news that a sexual video of the plaintiff had surfaced online. The audience member sent the video to the defendant on her Instagram account. The defendant then took to her X, formerly known as Twitter account, and invited followers to go to her likes. It was ultimately determined that the video was not truly real and was a deep fake. You couldn't even write this correctly. Deep fake, artificially generated and altered. See, Joels, this is why reading is fundamental. Even if this court finds that the conduct sufficient for promoting an altered sexual depiction, the promotion is still not extreme. What? And outrageous conduct. Huh? Plaintiff failed to show severe emotional distress caused by defendant. Even if plaintiff experienced emotional distress. She has not proven that defendant's conduct, as opposed to the traumatic underlying events or widespread media scrutiny and promoting the deepfake video, was the proximate cause. Florida law requires more than evidence of stress or offense. It requires severe emotional distress. At this stage of the proceeding, the court's analysis is different, and the court should find that no reasonable juror could find for the plaintiff on this claim. I would read the rest of it, but it doesn't matter because the judge said, get this fuck out my face. Judge denied it. And I'll show you the denial just for proof, because some people will say, how are you going to say the judge denied? You're not going to show the paperwork? Here's the paperwork. Order. This cause came before the court. Defendant Milagro Elizabeth Cooper's motion for a directed verdict on plaintiff's claim for intentional infliction of emotional distress filed on November 25th, 2025. As stated in open court, it is ordered and adjudged that defendant's motion for directed verdict on plaintiff's claim for intentional infliction of emotional distress is denied. Done and ordered. Okay? So the jury will still have to deliberate on that, right? She wanted the judge to toss it. Nope. Milagro also filed paperwork trying to get Megan on sanctions for basically speaking outside the courtroom about the case. If y'all can remember, a couple days ago, somebody asked Megan Thee Stallion what her message would be to other bloggers online. She said, my message would be that you guys should not be able to bully people or something to that effect, right? So because Megan said that bloggers should not be able to bully people, Milagro and her legal team took that tidbit and pled to the judge to make a motion for sanctions. And she said because of Megan making that statement, it opened her up to additional harassment. And she showed like a screenshot of some nigga jumping in her DM talking about, I hope this goes bad for you and all this other shit, right? For that, the judge partially granted and partially denied. But it's a paperless order. Therefore, you can't really see the extent of what was granted or what was denied. So I can't really elaborate on that piece, right? So I don't know if the sanctions were absolutely granted or what. Or if it was just an acknowledgement that Megan did, I guess, in a roundabout way. She really didn't speak on the trial at all. She really spoke out to others, but whatever. So again, a game within a game that Milagro and her legal team are trying to play to try to counter some of the damages if Megan Thee Stallion is indeed the victor in this trial and is awarded X amount of money. They want to try to at least extract a couple dollars out of her along the way, which, whatever, man. But again, we don't know how this is going to go, right? And we won't know how this is going to go until next Monday. So enjoy your family, like I said before, because they won't be back in court this week. Not Friday. They'll be back Monday. And hopefully they'll have a little bit of clarity on what it is that they have to answer to on Monday so that we can finally put this situation behind us, move forward, and see what exactly the result will be. Okay? Let me know what y'all think of all this down below in the comments. Be sure to like and share this video. If this is your first time seeing me on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, become an insider. I will catch y'all on the next one, all right? Happy holidays. I'll see y'all later. Peace.
Family over fame in this bitch, yeah. The glory of living righteous is setting in. My street knowledge and education's a perfect blend. Young mogul, independent, I've been setting trends. The first one from my family to be faithfully wed. Fuck niggas and the horses that they riding on. I see this shit from all angles like a polygon. I'll never politic and the drama be piling on. Father and great son acknowledged like I'm Bobby Bonds. Conversation with my lady about the paper route. 5 sit bank accounts every day I make it count. They down talking my commentary for hating now. Well, I can take it cause I'm bodying your favorite now, please. I can do this shit in my sleep. I been writing for these niggas, y'all read it and weep. I been fighting these niggas if you speak on the street. I'll turn your birthday party into New Year's Eve. Don't let me take it there. We ain't playing fair. This the ATL South Southside nigga moving furniture like Wayfair. Life on hold, no insurance for your healthcare. Lifeline gone, so you wanna be a millionaire? Well, let me tell you about this world I built. The women I dodged, the niggas that I read for filth. The sympathy calls, consulting for the stacks I built. I had to evolve and grow, cause I could've been